Yeah, for the others.
Yes.
Like 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay.
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Do you have any question?
No, it's okay.
No. Okay.
I think that we can start now because the time.
Okay. Are you happy with the results?
For me, no. For me, for me, I'm not too.
Not so happy.
No,
Why?
I'm not happy. I'm not happy with it because my grade is low. I got 20/40.
Ah,
Yes. So it's
well,
bad.
I don't know where it is the problem. Do you see any critical point that you can tell me? You didn't
Mm,
well, or is any other problem?
no, the problem is that it's me because I didn't prepare well.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
Well, next exam should be better for
Yeah,
you.
I know. I will. I will be strong
Okay.
because I'm used to now the system.
Yes, I know. Um, last time we have exercised the elasticity, if you remember. Do you remember the elasticity chapter that we have done?
No, last class I didn't attend
You did not.
because
Okay.
yes, I was having internet connection.
Okay. But we started to exercise the elasticity, and today we are going to enlarge this knowledge with this aspect. Um, we will concentrate to the government policies, the interventions, the price ceiling, how it is affecting and changing of low price, why it is required. As you are understanding, since the price are very important because it is creating inflation and affecting the supply and demand curves, then we have to manage this price to the reasonable level for maintaining a sustainable economical model. Price ceiling is somehow how many percentage or how many let's say dollar or Turkish lira you can increase your price, or what is the upper level of the prices in the subject, and this is somehow related with the government interventions. It is a situation when the price charge is more than or less than the equilibrium. Price determined by market force of demand and supply. As you are knowing, we are always talking about this invisible hand from the classical economical approach, which means the supplier and the demander are the determinant for the prices. But in fact, some interventions required for affecting and changing these prices, because sometimes the demand capacity is less or more, or the supply is less or more, and results of this we are exercising some problem, some surplus problem or some inefficiency, and results of these problems we are trying to intervene to the market as a government and managing this price. Because if you have some scarcity in the market, as you observed in 2020, the potato price and some other necessary foodstuffs increased, the price increased very high, and this was not good, this was not acceptable. And the government should do something for reducing the prices for the necessary foodstuff, especially for such foods, milk, dairy products, where they are using, the consumers using in everyday life. Otherwise, this will then create problems, some crisis, some economical problems. Demand capacity will reduce because of the higher prices, or vice versa. This is then not desired for the economy. And from this point of view, the governments make some interventions to the market. And it has been found that the higher price ceilings are ineffective in the economical aspects, or from the economical aspects. And this is done to cut the price increase, especially in necessary foodstuffs, such as milk and dairy products, as I mentioned to you, because people, and especially children, babies, need milk. And if you have very high milk prices, this is not acceptable. Then people will not able to buy these products for feeding their babies, and this will then create health problems for the nations, and this is not desired. And from this point of view, government should do some interventions for reducing this price increase in the market. Or if there is some surplus in the market, then the government will buy this surplus for preventing excessive reduction in the prices. The price ceiling we are talking about, the government impose a price ceiling to control the maximum prices that can be charged by suppliers for the commodities. And this is done to make commodities affordable to the general public. However, prolonged or longer period application of price ceiling can lead to a black market, as I mentioned to you, and unrest in the supply side, which is not desired either. Due to this reason, such intervention shouldn't be realized in a long period of time. It should be realized for a short period of time, for maintaining this sustainable economical model, for not letting the price increase or too much, or to lowering the prices too much, which is not desired for the economy. Because if you have reduced the prices too much, then the producer will not able to maintain their production. And if the price is too high, then the consumer will not able to buy. Due to this reason, such unexpected price increase in the economy will cause problem, and it is not desired. Price ceiling are common government tools used in regulating the economy, as I said to you, for regulating the price policy. And price ceiling means that the price of goods or services cannot be afforded in higher than the regulated level, so-called. And imagine a balloon floating in your house, and balloon cannot go higher than this ceiling because the floor stopped them. This is ceiling. For example, the cereals price sometimes also fixed by the governments. for not letting to increase too much. Therefore, the selling price for the higher level is good for preventing the economy if it is below the equilibrium. But if it is above the equilibrium, then it is problem. It may create some problems. We will exercise in this class. And price ceiling is the same concept, holding with the prices and a price ceiling, which affects the higher prices going up. That is not desired. This is stopping the prices at that level where it is restricted, it is intervened to the market. And where this gets tricky is that a binding price ceiling occurs below the equilibrium price level, where we are always below the equilibrium. It is somehow affecting the producer's aspect. How it is affecting, you will see, because if it is above the equilibrium, it is not binding, it is not affecting too much, it is not influencing the producer or suppliers too much. But if it is below the equilibrium, somehow it is affecting the suppliers' decisions, because they know that they will not increase their prices as that much, which is intervened to the market and fixed at that level. And it may be confusing to have a ceiling below something, but if you think it makes sense. If a balloon wants to float to 50 meters, then the ceiling must be below 50 meters in order to become effective. Then the price ceiling is at 100 meters. The balloon price can rise to 50 meters without problem. Therefore, as I said to you, if it is below the equilibrium, it is binding, it is affecting the producer. But if it is above, if you set 100 meter, for example, for balloon, then this will not be a problem for you, because you know that there is a space for letting the balloon to float above. But if it is 50 or 30%, then this is a problem. You are understanding, I hope, what does it mean, the price ceiling. And price ceiling that doesn't have an effect on the market, price is referred to as non-binding price ceiling, because it is probably above the equilibrium. And in general, a price ceiling will be non-binding whenever the level of the price ceiling is greater than or equal to the equilibrium price that will prevail in an unregulated market. I mentioned to you, if it is set above the equilibrium, it is not binding. It is not affecting too much. Therefore, we don't see any problem in that case, and it is, of course, not desired. Price ceiling always realized for reducing the price, for creating a barrier to the price to not go too faster, too higher. As I said to you, for the milk products, you are not doing this higher, above the equilibrium, because you want to regulate the milk price at that level for everybody consume, for everybody buy this, because milk products or poultry or water or some other bread and some similar necessary foodstuffs should be distributed and market with a reasonable price. Otherwise, the consumers will not able to buy. It is too expensive, and this is not desired, because we want to feed everybody. We want to give them chance to feed, and nutrition should be equally distributed to the nations, to the country as a whole, because this is necessary foodstuff, and you cannot reduce this nutrition. You cannot put the barrier in front of the nutrition or foods and services where it is necessary, because we want to develop and create healthy nations. And if you don't let them to buy the food and services with a reasonable price, this is not acceptable. A price ceiling that doesn't have an effect on the market is referred to a non-binding price ceiling. In general, a price ceiling will be non-binding whenever the level of the price ceiling is greater than or equal to the equilibrium price that would prevail in an unregulated market, as I said to you. And if we are going to draw this with the non-binding, it will be illustrated to you as you are observing above the equilibrium, which is set as 4. And this is not problem for the economy because it is a little bit higher than the equilibrium. This will not create too much problem to the economy, to the producer. And price ceiling, which is binding, a binding price ceiling occurs when the government set the required price on a good or goods at a price below equilibrium. Since the government requires that the price not rise above this price, the price binds the market for that good, which means you put these prices at a reasonable low level, and then the producer will not able to increase their market above this, and this will then somehow prevent this production enlargement. The capacity will not enlarge too much because producer will understand there is a limit on this price, and if you are not able to enlarge and increase your profit above this price, then the producer will not prefer to enlarge and increase the production operation or the production capacity. And from this point of view, sometimes such a long period of time, this price binding below the equilibrium is affecting negatively the market and is not good. Binding price ceiling, as I said to you, is always realized below the equilibrium. As you are observing, the equilibrium is 3%, $3, sorry, or euro, but the price ceiling set below this equilibrium, it is €2. And when you see there is a scarcity in the economy because production is less than the demand capacity, when you are set the price at $2 or €2, you have some scarcity in the economy, and this should be imported from the other nations. But it is better to put this price ceiling somehow near to the equilibrium. Then this will then reduce this scarcity or inefficient production in the economy. And from this point of view, when you are looking to this graphic, there is 75 units of ice cream produced, ice cream cone, sorry, produced in the economy, or 75 million, and there is 125 million ice cream cone, especially in summer we are using this, and is between this, as you see, 50 unit or 50 million or 50% of this production should be imported because producer can only achieve 75% or 75 unit of this production in the domestic market, and 125 units, which is the demand capacity for this market in the domestic market, should be imported. The difference between this 125 and 75 should be imported from the other countries for covering these needs because the consumer demand is too much. And if you are setting the price ceiling below this equilibrium, then you are expecting some price increase, which is not allowed in the domestic market. The government said the price ceiling at $2, €2, and the government indirectly affecting the market and create some scarcity to this economy, and it is not desired. Such price ceiling should be approached to the equilibrium level, and this will then create space to the producer to enlarge and increase the market for covering the need of the consumers. I hope you are understanding. And the government imposes this price ceiling in order to keep the price of some necessary goods and services affordable, as I said to you, for bringing the market to the reasonable level with reasonable prices for everybody can buy. And this is not luxury good, and it should be offered to the market with a reasonable price, as I said to you. And if it is not reasonable price, then government should intervene to the market for reducing the prices. And in 2005, during Hurricane Katrina, the price of bottled water increased above $5 per gallon. As a result, many people called for price controls on bottled water to prevent the price from rising too high. Therefore, as you see, if the water is subjected, which is the everyday life consumption goods, then should be offered to the market with reasonable prices. Think about $5 is a bottle water is very high, as you see, then we are consuming almost a liter or more than liter every day, every person. Then this is very high and very expensive, where the people survive with $300, $400, especially in the emerging economies. This price becomes very expensive. Even in the America, this will be very high price, because a bottle water should be less than 50 cent or 60 cent maximum. Above this is too high. The short run effects, when we are questioning, in the short run from supply side, constructing house and buildings are not affecting from the price changes, because house construction takes time. Apartments to rent cannot adjust quickly as market conditions change. And from demand side, number of people searching for housing may not be highly responsive to these rents, and people take time to adjust their housing arrangements. Therefore, the short-run supply and demand for housing are relatively inelastic. As you are understanding, from sectors to sectors, this intervention to the market is not very effectively realized. And from this point of view, we are not able to affect the economy too much with this price ceiling. As you see here, the construction sector is a long run process, is requiring some long period of time, and from this point of view, this kind of actions may require time for adapting and increasing the impact onto the economy. And as you see, the supply becomes ineffective for the price changes, rental price especially, and the controlled rent supposed to be well below the equilibrium, and it is creating shortage, because as I said to you, if you set the price below, then this will not covered, especially in such economies where it is not affected heavily from these price changes. And it is, as I said to you, inelastic supply for the rental price, especially for the apartments, because you can create much easily in a short period of time, because construction sector or constructing building a house require time. It's at least a year, and this is more than a year, is not a short period, and this should be adapted and should be controlled by the governments for preventing such shortage in the economy. The long run story is very different from the short, and because the buyers and sellers of rental housing respond more to the market conditions as time passes on the supply side. Low rents reduce house constructions and buildings new apartments, as I said to you, and on the demand side, low rents encourage people to find their own apartments from the demand side. And from this point of view, you are understanding lower price or lower rents or lower profit in this sector is not desirable and is not enlarging the economical aspect of the construction sector, but the demand side will be enjoyed and will be enlarged from the lower prices where it is fixed by the government, and this will then sometimes positively affecting the demand side but negatively affecting the supply side. From this point of view, both the supply and demand are more elastic in the long run, as you are observing in the graphic here, because both supply and demand is affecting now from the economical side. As you see, if the set price is below the equilibrium, then it is somehow creates some shortage, because supply side will not enjoy to increase, but demand side will try to increase their desire to rent the houses. But if there is insufficient houses in the economy, then this will also create in the long run problem. Therefore, it is becoming inelastic. It is becoming elastic in the economy. Okay, I'm trying to fix the problem because it stopped. Okay, we have illustrated the shortage here. You see there was a big problem in the economy. And for example, let's consider the house rent market. Yes, yes, please. Yes, Fevzi. I'm listening. Is there a problem? Or Abu Bakr is talking. What is problem? Somebody is joining. Is there any problem? Abu Bakr?
No problem hocam.
Can remove you here because you stop here. Okay. Okay, we were talking about let's consider, I said, the house rent market here in the given graph where we have illustrated former graphic. The price is set $3 has been, or 3%, determined as the equilibrium price with the quantity at 30 homes. Now the government determines the price ceiling at 2. At this rate, there is a shortage, as you are observing, 40 houses, but for suppliers, and the supply is only 20 houses. And in the long run, the extra 20 houses is expected to be, which is not easily realized. It goes. I have to share again. Wait. The slides disappeared. It comes. Okay. I have to go to the last where we were. You following me? Because I interrupt these slides, these PowerPoints, and I'm flashback.
Yes, teacher.
Okay, as you see here, we were here, and as I was talking about this graphic, where there is a shortage between supply and demand curves, and there is 20 houses supplied, let's say 20,000 or 2,000 or 20 million, or whatever it is, and there is 40 units or 40% demand. Then the difference between these two is the shortage, so-called. And from this point of view, we are trying to enlarge and increase the market, which is not acceptable. If it is possible, then it will then reduce. If it is not, because as I said to you, the construction technology and constructing houses is a long run process, and during this period of time, sometimes the demand is reduced and changed, and sometimes supply is not able to realize this, and this is then a problem to the economy. The effects of the price ceiling, binding price ceiling, creates shortage, as I said to you, because if it is set below the equilibrium, when the QD is more than QS, gasoline shortage of the 1970s, non-price rate rationalizing. An example, long lines discriminations by sellers is realized because of this shortage. As I said to you, when you set the price very low, then the demand capacity is enlarged and the supply side is affected and will be not responding to this demand, or will not easily enlarge and increase this demand, and this will then create problem to the economy. It was observed in the OPEC, where the oil price, especially for the crude oil in the world markets, exercise, and crude oil is the major input used in market to make a gasoline, and this higher oil prices reduce the supply of gasoline, And what was responsible for the long gas lines? Economists blame governments, regulations that limited the price. Oil companies could charge for gasolines, and this was the big issue at that time. Currently, we are also exercising problem because of this pandemic. Some unexpected supplier which is restricted from the market, creating excessive price increase in the market, and this is the problem because then the demand now becomes affected, and the supply side also is affected because they are not able to reach to the market. This kind of unexpected extraordinary conditions are also affecting the economy, as we are currently in the recessionary period. Most of the economies are below the growth as expected, and some few economies exercising some development on the economy, on the GDP, but mostly they are exercising negative development, and this is because of this pandemic. And the price ceiling on gasoline is not binding, as it is set above the equilibrium. As you are observing here, now it is set above the equilibrium, and it is 4. And results of this 4, the price ceiling is not binding. But this 4, as you are observing, this price ceiling becomes binding if it is above the equilibrium where the supply reduced. You are here observing this is realized, and this is sometimes also negatively affecting, but this is real conditions, not always realized. And the price floor is the opposite of the price ceiling, where you are putting the price at a lower level, and this is also a problem to the economy. Price floor is a situation when the price charge is more than or less than the equilibrium price, determined by market forces of demand and supply. By observation, it has been found that the lower price are ineffective, as you see, if it is well below. And price floor has been found to be of great importance in the labor wage market, because lower price is restricting the price increase, isn't it? And this will then affecting the wages, because wages are the factors of productions, one of the most important component. You have question? And as you see, if the price set well below, then the producer will not able to increase the wages, because the price, the selling price, or the product price is very low, and you cannot increase the wages, because wages, as I said to you, is the cost, is the increasing the cost of the production and the product price. And if the price floor is very low, then you cannot increase the wages to enlarge and increase the, let's say, laborers or employees' welfare. Minimum wage law, as you know from your economical or from your everyday life, is the minimum wage where you are offering to the workers to be able to work. If it is set well below, then this is also affected, because you are reducing the welfare and you are reducing their purchasing capacity, especially when most of the people are working with the minimum wages, as in Cyprus, you are observing, as in Turkey, as in many other emerging economies, most of the people are working with the minimum wage. Regarding to this minimum wage, they are getting their salaries, their incomes, and this is very important issue. And minimum wage law have been passed in various countries to determine the minimum wage to be paid to the workers, as you know from the from your everyday life also. And the minimum wage are formulated from the demand supply curve of labor, which is offered by the households and demanded from the firms. And floor price help the government to ensure higher wages and a good standard of living for the workers. From this point of view, if it is set well below, then this is problem, as I said to you, because government indirectly affecting this, because households and the firms are the determinant for this price floor and the wages. And if this is well below, then the wages, the real wages especially, will affect it negatively. And this has a flip side too, and price floor leads to a lesser number of workers than in a case of equilibrium wage. This is shown by the diagram as you are observing here. Now the set above, as you see, and this will create problem to the economy where the price floor is high. And when you put the price very high, this will shift the price very high, and probably the wages will become very high. And results of this, then the demand capacity will become less for the firms, reduce their employee because the price is very high, and the wages will also affecting negatively from this point of view, and this will then affect and reduce the employee capacity, and unemployment will be enlarging the economy. An equilibrium rate is supposed to be P is equal to 3 as it is given here, as you see, and the price floor is determined at P4, which is higher market, but the good for workers who will earn more than before is good. But as I said to you, this higher wages or higher price which is offered to the workers, to the employer, is reducing the employment capacity in the economy, because as you are observing here, the demand capacity for the firms is 20 units, and the supply capacity, or the so-called employee who will want to work with $4 per hour, let's say, or per unit, then is very high, and this will then create huge amount of surplus, and this surplus is unemployment. Therefore, minimum wage law also not good if it is set above the equilibrium. It should be below the equilibrium for enlarging the workers' capacity and workers' and employment capacity in the economy. And this price, which is estimated, is higher than market price, and it is good for the workers. As I said to you, they enjoy to work with these higher prices, but unfortunately, the firms, the companies will not enjoy to employ people at that price because it is very high, and this will then reduce the employment capacity in the economy. That's the reason always this minimum wage law is a problem with the labor unions. Continuously, they are having struggles for increasing their wages, these minimum wages, and getting more benefits for the workers. But unfortunately, this is somehow negatively affecting the economy, because if this is set higher than the equilibrium, this will reduce the workers' capacity, and the unemployment problem is then will be arise in the economy, and it is not desired. At a wage of P is equal to 4, we see on the graphic there is a 20 units workers in scarcity, and they are wishing to work and are willing to work, but only 20 workers are getting able to enjoy to work, and the rest of the people who are not able to work is a problem to the economy. Therefore, we have to manage this with the reasonable discussions and reasonable arrangements in the economy. And price selling prevents, as I said to you, price from rising above a certain level. When a price ceiling is set below the equilibrium price, quantity demanded will exceed quantity supplied, and exceeding demand or shortage will result, as I said to you. And price floor prevents a price from falling below a certain level, and when a price floor is set above the equilibrium, price quantity, excess supply or surplus will result, as we described. And price floor, when the government impose a price floor, two outcomes are possible, expected. The price floor is not binding if it is set below the equilibrium price floor, and price floor is binding if it is set above the equilibrium, where it is leading a surplus. As I said to you, price floor is expected to be high above the equilibrium is a binding, and price floor is set well below is not binding if it is set below the equilibrium, which is not affecting the economy. We are observing here labor market, labor demand, and labor supply illustrated. Labor supply is the vertically parallel to the, proportionally to the wages and the quantity, and labor demand is inversely proportional with the wages, because labor demand is the firm's preferences, and labor supply is the workers. Therefore, workers want to get higher wages, and firms and companies who are demanding this labor are enjoying to reduce the wages. And from this point of view, we have again problem for increasing or decreasing the wages, affecting bilaterally the economy and the both parties. If the minimum wage is set above the equilibrium, as I said to you, is a problem, because this creates a surplus, this unemployment is observed. And if shift this to the, if this shift the demand to the left, then this will then create some downward reduction on the economy. If it is tax subjected here, let's say results of the tax is realized, because this will then shift the price. Without tax it was $3, and if it is tax subjected to tax, then it will reduce to some 3.30, and this will then reduce the employment capacity. As you are observing, the demand capacity is reduced for the employer, for the firms, because tax is shifting the economy and the price to the higher level. And results of this, the demand capacity for the firms is reduced to 2.18. And this is negatively affecting the economy. As you are observing, the difference is somehow should be covered by the governments for not creating such problems. Therefore, tax is sometimes creating problem to the economy for reducing the supply, and it is not always beneficial for the governments for increasing these tax rates, for enlarging and increasing the economical aspects for the resource transfers from the, let's say, consumers to the producers, or from the producers to the governments. This is not always positively realized. As you are observing here, it is shifting the price to the higher level and reducing the supply side and the employee capacity in the economy. This 50 cents must be covered by the governments, maybe, or not applied, as you see, because it is reducing the economical effects. Equilibrium without tax, again is here $3 realized. And now we are having here some tax on sellers, shift the supply curve upward and reduce it. As you are observing, now we have the opposite. Then this will then shift the supply back to the left side, and this then negatively affecting the economy again, but now the supplier is affected. As you see here, this is then of course a burden to the supplier, and shift the price to the from 3 to 3.3. This is then another problem, but the supplier observing this, as you are observing here. Now we have another example, wages without tax. As you see, as much as you are applying the wages, this will then reduce the beneficiaries for the suppliers and the demanders. At that point where the wages without tax is illustrated, you see the upper part of this labor supply is the producer gain. And as you see, if you subject these taxes, or if you apply the taxes to the economy, this will reduce the both parties' preferences and the surpluses, and the demander, labor demand, is on the, let's say, this triangle, the right angle triangle that you may imagine, is for the demander. And if you apply these taxes to the economy, bilaterally, the supplier and the demander, I mean supplier, labor supplier, and the demander, the labor demander, the firms, and the supplier, labor supplier, the employer, will be negatively affected. As you are observing here, this tax which is applied, this rectangular figure where it is represented here with dash, is gone to the government, and this equilibrium triangle, which is up near to the equilibrium is the debt weight, which is not collected by the governments. Therefore, in any cases, any tax which is applied to the economy will negatively affect the labor demand and labor supply, as you are observing here, and the government enjoy to get this tax. But as much as you are increasing this tax rate, the government proportion is also reduced. You will see in the following lessons we are going to introduce to you. But from this point of view, you don't have to understand exactly what I am talking about, but you will understand in the following lessons. Maybe next lecture will be better introduced to you, because I don't have here this. I have in the next chapter this introduction to you. Now I am going to give you this briefly. Before going to this impact of this tax, which is affecting and changing the economy, as you are observing, as much as you are increasing the tax, this will negatively affect, you are understanding, the supply and demand. Either it is supply labor or demand, or it is supply and demand in the market. No problem. It is negatively affecting the economy. If your percentage tax is higher than 20% or 30%, it is bringing nothing to the economy, because neither the government nor the consumer or producer profiting from this application, because it is negatively affecting the all parties, and mostly it is a debt weight. It is disappeared from the economy and nobody collecting. Not if you think if the government put 40% tax to the economy and will collect too much taxes, this is wrong decision, because this 40% is not directly goes to the economy, goes to the government. Mostly it is disappeared from the economy because it is very high and nobody will able to collect this. You will see in the graphic in the next lesson, as I said to you. Now I am introducing to you the Cobweb Theorem. The Cobweb Theorem is suggested that if you are having demand and supply elasticity in the economy, this will positively or sometimes negatively affecting and bringing the market to the equilibrium. How it is realized, you will understand, but let's say introduce to you first this Cobweb Theorem, which is introduced by the Ezekiel in 1938 and developed by Calder. This is a spider network somehow. It is supposed to be, as much as you are playing with the prices, this will, depending to the demand elasticity or supply elasticity, either bringing the market to the equilibrium or moving away from the equilibrium. How it is realized, you will see, as you are seeing, if it is equally unique, elastic, supply and demand realize, this price changes, bringing the market towards to the equilibrium. As you are observing here, it is a cobweb, it is some spider network to approaching to the economy. If it is equally distributed, this elasticity, which is not realized usually, it is a unitary elastic demand or supply, not realized in all market and all products in the market. And let's say the Cobweb theory stems from a simple dynamic model of cyclical demand, which involves time lag between the response of production and change in price, and most often seen in agricultural products, as I said in the former slides. This is affecting the supply side because it is in the short run and short period of time. This will positively affecting and changing the market towards to the equilibrium, because if you have changed the price, especially in such agricultural products where in its time lags to affect and change the market, will affect it and change. It is assumed that the demand for goods is decreasing function of its current prices, because let's say the potato prices increase in this period, in this season, and most of the producers is accelerated and promoted to increase this production because of these higher prices. They will enjoy to enlarge and increase this production for getting more profit. But usually this is negatively affecting the market, and the producer will next season decrease their prices because there will be a surplus because of this enlarged production. Therefore, such tricky businesses always stagnating the economy and creating problem. And from this point of view, it is not necessary to play the prices too much for increasing and decreasing with higher levels or to the lower levels for affecting and changing the demand and supply. And it is supposed, as I said to you, in supply as an increasing function of last year price, the time take to produce, as I said to you, to plant and harvest. And this will then, of course, for the next season, affecting if all producers producing together, then this will then create too much surplus, too much production and cause overproduction, and the price will fall down than the former year price, which was higher. And this is then negatively affecting the producer, and then they will create problem to the economy. Especially this happens, as I said to you, in agricultural products, because the price of the agricultural products has mostly an elastic demand. They are having elastic demand and not durable, because in 3 months or 4 months, if it is in the refrigerator either, not durable and need to be sold in a short period of time. And therefore, the price can be changed quickly and depends on the demand. If it is less demand, the price reduce, and more demand, the price increase very quickly. But you cannot adjust the prices very quickly regarding to this elasticity and regarding to this production capacity, which affecting and changing the producer decisions and enlarging their production for the next season. This is very tricky business and not desired. If demand is more elastic, as I said to you, different in price changes between first year product price is affected, and the second year product price, let's say, is P2, is increasingly decreased, and the output and the price lead to approach to the equilibrium position. This has also meant that the slope of the demand curve is smaller than the slope of the supply curve, which means we have now here elastic demand showing. And this is then the reason that we are observing here more approach to the equilibrium, because slope of the demand curve, as you are observing here, is less than the slope of the supply curve. And in the opposite case, if the supply curve is more elastic, now supply curve is more elastic, you know what is mean. If the supply curve is more elastic, it means more horizontal to the x-axis. And the demand curve is not elastic or less elastic, then the output and the price tends to move away from the equilibrium, and this is then creating imbalance to the economy. This will create not equilibrium, inequilibrium into the economy. Therefore, the slope of the demand curve is expected to greater than the slope of the supply curve, which means the price and output tends to move further from the equilibrium position. And here, as you are observing, slope of the demand curve is less than the slope of the supply curve. And then the graphical illustration is given to you here. You see now the demand is price elastic at the first graphic, at the first figure, which means more horizontal to the x-axis. In the middle, the supply curve is more elastic. And as you are observing in the first graphic, the price changes, bringing the market to the equilibrium. It goes to the equilibrium. If the supply is elastic, then this will then cause inequilibrium, and the market will move away from the equilibrium. As much as you are increasing or decreasing the prices, this will not effectively bringing the market to the equilibrium. It is going away from the equilibrium, and if there is a unitary elastic between supply and demand, it is stay intact, and the supply and demand curve will become equilibrium without any problem. I hope you are understanding, because I am going faster to trying to finish as much as we are having limited time. If you have any question, you ask me. If you don't, then I will go to the next slides. Is it clear, everything? You are here, you are listening me. Mamadou Mariam Fevzi. Do you have any question?
No, sir.
No? Everything clear?
No, sir.
Okay. Not clear? You are
It's okay.
understanding?
You can continue.
Okay, thank you. Because sometimes I want to hear you are here or not. Because we are in the
Yeah,
online.
and
I want to feel you are here. You are here, or you go somewhere else. You are opening your microphone or connection, but you may leave.
we are here.
Okay, it is better to listen. Elastic supply, as I said to you, is illustrated here. The price without tax is in equilibrium, and if you are applying the tax, and if you have the elastic supply, you are observing here, the supply is elastic, then there is a huge impact to the demand, isn't it? You are observing when supply is more elastic than demand, then the incidence of the tax falls more heavily on consumers. This means the consumer is affected. As you see, the intersection point between the equilibrium is supposed to be the bit difference between the supplier and demander. The red line is the supply and the blue line is the demand. And when you have this intersection, the equilibrium point intersect this tax which is applied to the economy, you see if the elastic supply is subjected and the demand is more inelastic, then this will then affect heavily the demander. You see, the demand will be affected heavily here, and the price changes. Okay. An inelastic supply and elastic demand now. Now the elastic demand and supply is more inelastic. You see now the demand is less affected because of demand curve is elastic and supply curve is inelastic. This means inelasticity is somehow causing too much if the subjective tax is in the market. And you see here the supply is heavily affected when the tax is subjected and affect much more than the demand, and the supplier will suffer from the market results of this tax, which is going to be applied to the economy. Is it clear? When the demand is more elastic than supply, the increased incidence of the tax falls more heavily on producers, which means producer is affected. The supplier is heavily affected from this tax. And the demander is less because demand is elastic and the supply is inelastic. And when you are applying to the economy this tax, let's say 10% or 15%, you see here, this is heavily affecting the supplier here now because supply is inelastic. Okay. And the revenue is maximized at a unit elasticity, which is supposed to be equal to 1. When that happens, demand is said to be unit elastic. Total revenue reaches the maximum when demand is unit elastic. As you are observing here, delta Q over Q is equal to delta price over P. And this is then the unitary elastic demand, which is equal to 1. And if the firm can charge only a single price to all buyers, which is not observed in the market, it must balance the additional quantity sold due to a lower price and the lower revenue from each unit sold. If the percentage change in quantity sold is greater than the percentage change in price, total revenue will increase when a lower price is charged. When this happens, demand is said to be elastic. You are understanding, I hope. If it is above 1 is elastic, and if it is below 1, it is inelastic, as you know from the former class. And the elasticity of demand has an absolute value greater than 1. For example, a percentage change, 10% change, price decrease tending to a 20% of quantity increase will gives you an elastic demand which is greater than 1. and any further price decrease beyond the maximum total revenue point will lead to a lower revenue because the percentage change quantity will be smaller than the percentage change in price. And when that happens, demand is said to be inelastic because, as I said to you, if it is less than 1, between 0 and 1, it is inelastic demand, and the total revenue decrease as price decrease when demand is inelastic. I hope you are combining this with the revenue. If it is inelastic, then the decrease on the revenue is expected. As the price decreases, the total revenue is expected to become lower. And then we are giving a linear example here with the linear curve. QD is equal to A minus BP, and then the elasticity is supposed to be minus BP over Q, and where B is the slope of this curve, and Q is supposed to be P over Q multiplied delta Q over delta P, which is then the elasticity. And suppose P is 0.7, Q is 70, and elasticity for this is minus 0.55, can be calculated easily. Any question? And finding A and B is subjected. You are having here P, Q, and Q, then you can find B easily, isn't it? Is it clear here?
No, teacher, can you repeat, please?
P is 0.7, Q is a given example, 70, and the elasticity is minus 0.55. Since we know all this, we know that the elasticity formula is minus P over Q, isn't it? Then you have the elasticity, you have P and Q, then you can vice versa replace denominator, numerator to the other side for finding the minus P. On this equation here, the elasticity is, isn't it? Given elasticity is equal to minus P or B multiplied P over Q, then you are going to put this equation, because P, Q, and elasticity for demand is given here. Then you're gonna put to the equation elasticity is 0.55 minus 0.55, of course, and the P is 0.70 and Q is 70. When you are going to put to the equation, to this elasticity equation, then you will find the B, where it is the elasticity formula. B is the slope of this curve, isn't it? Then you will find this 55 as and the B, which is the slope of this curve, minus 55, which is the slope of this curve. You got it?
Okay.
Is it clear? I think it's not difficult. Because we have this formula, the elasticity formula, there elasticity for demand is minus BP over Q, and B, as I said to you, is the slope of this curve. And here in the given example, we are supposing P is 0.7, Q is 70, and elasticity is minus 0.55, which is inelastic, demand is subjected. Therefore, we are putting this all to the equation, to this elasticity formula. Elasticity QP is the price elasticity for demand, is equal to minus P over Q. Then you are going to put this equation to the given numbers, then you are finding the B, okay? Then B is 55, and 55 is the slope, of course, because as I said to you, B is given equation, is in a given equation, is the slope. Is it clear? And when you are going to put this to the equation, and you will find this A also, which is the intercept. And intercept is here 108.5, because you have the QD here, you have the B, you have P, everything is given. Then you can find the equation easily. And intercept is also estimated here with this example. Is it clear? If you look a little bit, you will understand. We are going to replace the equation there, because QD is given A minus BP, isn't it? Then you are going to put all the given numbers to this equation, but you are going to let this A alone, because you're gonna put this BP to the other side of the equation, and this will then make A plus BP, isn't it? For finding A also, because we want to find the A also. And QD is 70, B is already founded, 55, and P is the price, which is 0.70. Then you're gonna put this to the equation, to the supply to the demand equation. Then you will find 108.5 for the intercept A, and you have the B also. Then you can put the equation as QD 108.5 minus 55 P, and you can illustrate the equation with the intercepts and with the coefficients, or you may use for illustrate the graphic either. You are understanding this? Is it clear? Do you have any question? You got me, or you have problem?
I have problem with my system.
Which one?
I cannot see your slide.
You can not see my slides.
Yeah, it's
Really?
white.
Slides.
Slide number 43.
You can see. You cannot see.
No, I cannot. I don't know if
I think
internet
if you quit and come, you will understand, because this is coming usually from your sides, because I think the other students are able to see. Are you able to see Mamadou, for example, or Mohammed, or Fevzi? Are you able to see these slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I think this is coming from him, the server probably problem. You quit and come again, or you will watch this on YouTube, because I will upload every lesson to the YouTube to let you to see and repeat your class again. Therefore, you quit and come again and see, or I don't know. You will see after the class at YouTube. You're gonna quit. You're gonna quit and come.
Yes, I do it right now.
Quit and come, and let's see if you are able to see. Victor, you are talking about, isn't it? I will wait you. How is it now? Victor? Is it clear, Victor?
It's Momo, teacher. I think I will try to put the video after.
Okay then. Okay, I'm going further. Okay,
now it's okay.
Now it's okay. Okay, then we have then the demand equation here. 108.5 minus 55p. This is then the demand equation which was asked us in the example. Then we have already found that A and B, the intercept, so-called the coefficients of this equation, the slope of the equation and the intercept. Another example, constant elasticity demand curve for finding coefficients. Suppose demand is QD is equal to A power of NE. And suppose again P is 0.70, Q is 70, and elasticity is minus 0.55. And finding A and B now is again in the question. Then A, as you are understanding from the former slides, you're gonna multiply this 70 because is the slope like this. 70 multiplied with 0.70, power of 0.55, because power of this is the elasticity is the power of this supply demand equation. You got this? Then you will find then A here. A is then 57.5. Is it clear? I think somebody is opening the microphone and it is creating noise. Is it clear, this example also? Because the power of this price is the slope of this curve, and slope of the curve is the elasticity also. Then when you are going to use this elasticity, you can find the... Is it possible to switch your mobile microphone? Yes, thank you. Osman, please close your microphone. Okay, then the equation will be then 57.53 price power of 0.55, because as I said, to the power of this is the elasticity, as we are knowing from the former examples. Former chapter we are introduced to you the elasticity. And the exercise given to you, consider the market for bicycles. The demand is given. Now the inverse equation given, P is equal to minus 1.5 QD plus 60. Suppose that the price changes from 15 to 30 using the standard percentages. Change formula, point method. What is the price elasticity of demand? Using the demand equation, we can get QD as 30. When price is 15, then the QD is supposed to be 20. And P is 30, and so the elasticity equation is 20 minus 30 will be divided 30, because we are using the point method, midpoint, and then 30 minus 50 divided to 50. Then you are going to find the 1.3. Then suppose that the price changes from 15 to 30 using the midpoint method. What is the price elasticity for demand is asked to you. Then we are using the arc elasticity, 20 minus 30 divided to the 20 plus 30 divided to 2. This is then the midpoint formula. Then the 30 minus 50 dividing to the 30 plus 50 dividing 2, the midpoint formula again. Then we give you 3.5, which is equal to 0.3. Is it clear, this part? We are using this elasticity again. Formula with point method and midpoint for the arc elasticity is clear. We have done this in the former chapter. Did you get it? Delta Q over delta P, P multiplied Q, P over Q. This is the elasticity formula. And here we are using either the elasticity midpoint or point method, which is introduced to you with the arc elasticity. Is it clear? I think this is simplest estimations, not difficult to you. And when P is 15, what is the price elasticity of demand using the point method? Again, is the price elastic or not? At P15, the price goes up. Does the total revenue increase, decrease, or stay intact? We can use again the formula, 1 over slope multiplied. You know, the slope is delta Q over delta P multiplied with P over Q. Using the demand equation again, delta Q, QD is equal to 30 and the P is 15. Then the elasticity formula will be then 1 over 1 minus 5, which is the slope is given here. And then multiplied with 15 divided to 30. Then this will then gives you 1 over 3, which is around somehow 0.3. And so the elasticity, again, 1 over 3 is less than 1, because it is inelastic, demand is subjective, therefore the price goes up when the revenue increase, isn't it? And the total revenue is expected to increase because the price affecting positively now the revenue. Okay, this was the class for today. If you have any question, you ask me, or if you need any revision or repetition, I will go flashback to you, to the chapters, to the slides, or we will finish this here. And you will check up this from YouTube to see the lecture once again, to repeat and revision, make revision for the class. Do you have any question?
No, doctor, thank you.
Okay, then I'm finishing this class and see you next week. I think is Ramadan Bayram fest, we will not have any class, isn't it? I think it is Ramadan.
I think
Yes, it
Bayram
is. Yeah, it will be Eid al-Fitr actually, not
Yeah.
Ramadan.
Yes, but will be not the exam. Okay, the first day, 8, okay, I know. And will be cancelled. The class will not be continuing, okay? The class will not maintain, okay? After the Ramadan Bayram, we will continue, okay? If you have
Okay.
any question or anything, you can communicate with me, email or WhatsApp. I will help you during this period of time. You can study. I am not going to upload you any assignment because I don't want to give you more assignment. You have done already. If you want, I can give you one more, then upgrade your results. If you wish, I can upload you some elasticity examples for upgrading your midterm exam. Do you want me to do this?
Yes, please, doctor.
Okay,
Yes,
then
sir.
I will give you one assignment out of 10 points, and those who
Yes,
responding
sir.
to me,
Upload it, please.
yes, then you will get maximum 10 points for your midterm. Okay, then you will get. But if you have 40 points, then of course I will not give you anything. But some students who are requiring higher prizes, higher results, higher marks, then you will do this example, this assignment. Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
Okay, teacher.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Today or
Thanks
tomorrow,
very
I
much.
will upload, and within 15 days, you have to do this. I will put the restriction due time. Then you will do it until 20 of May, for example. Then you will finish it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you. Then have a nice
Happy
weekend.
holiday.
You too.
Yes, you too, and
See you later,
happy
Jam.
happy Eid to you also, and Ramadan.
Okay,
Thank you,
bye.
teacher.
Bye bye.
thank you, sir.